Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you if you could give us further information maybe on how the vaccine links to dementia, because a lot of older people, maybe even those in our families, for example, my grandmother, have suffered in dementia from dementia ever since taking the COVID vaccine.
I'm so sorry. And thank you for bringing that up. I know one of the most disturbing things, everyone can hear me, right?
Yeah.
One of the most disturbing things sort of emotionally for many people is personality changes that can arise in loved ones. And there's enough anecdotal evidence. I mean, this is one of those things that requires a lot of study, but it tends to fall into categories of very binary thinking. People are no longer capable of nuanced thinking or shades of gray kind of critical thinking, and also impulse control problems. People get very enraged, road rage, accidents, fights, a lack of regulation, emotional regulation, and dementias, as you mentioned. So now we know the mechanism for that, or at least some of the mechanisms. There's always more to find out, right? But we know, as I mentioned, that the lipid nanoparticles traverse the blood-brain barrier. And indeed, lipid nanoparticles were developed and understood to traverse the blood-brain barrier. They were initially used 10 years ago to bring medicine to people with brain tumors because those people were so far gone and had so little chance of living that the risks of the lipid nanoparticles in their system was defensible because they were going to die of a brain tumor. But it was known that this material goes into your brain. Now, what it does, in a book by Dr. Michael Nels called The Indoctrinated Brain is a really important book. He's a German neuroscientist. He points out that the combination of propaganda, repetition of messages while people are in a state of fear actually damages and rewires the brain, and also that there's this actual brain damage from the injection, specifically destroying or damaging the prefrontal cortex, which is where impulse moderation takes place, where we don't say, terrible things to our loved ones, even if we're thinking them, and also where memory. One of the most disturbing things he found is that people with a combination of this rewiring through propaganda and the actual brain damage lost their memories of themselves, right? And it was replaced by the propaganda, so that when you challenge the propaganda, you've seen people storm out of the room when you say, well, let me show you this data that contradicts what NPR is saying. That's because you're not just challenging their knowledge base, which people used to be able to handle in a debate, but you're challenging their sense of self itself, because their brain has been rewired, essentially. So I think that's really worth noting. I don't know what happened, obviously, in your grandma's case, but there's so much dementia and Alzheimer's type damage in the Pfizer documents that it's just understandable. These lipid nanoparticles damage the brain as they circulate through the system, crossing the blood-brain barrier. And that's why, again, study is so important, because what you've got, among other things, is an inflamed brain. You've got brain inflammation from the lipid nanoparticles. And so if you can engage in anti-inflammatory treatments that could help heal some of this, there can be, trauma-based interventions that can help with the way propaganda rewires the brain. In effect, you can possibly rebuild the myelin sheath of the nervous system, which helps all impulses travel through the nervous system. But those are things that it takes political will, as well as institutional will in universities and labs and so on, to deliver. So that's the best I can do. And I'm really sorry that happened to your grandma.